think you were a cinematic idiot, and I'd feel sorry for you. My name is Matthew Kroll.
And Matt, you bitch. Let's work this out. My name is Shahir Dowd.
And this is the only podcast about movies, specifically the film that feels like it's attacking me, High Fidelity.
I did change the name to Matt because I did feel weird about saying her actual name as you bitch.
Oh, that's fair, I guess. I mean, do you know many Lauras?
We have a Laura that writes us into the podcast.
Do. Yeah, that was going to be my suggestion.
That's the only one that comes to the top of mind. Do I know any other Lauras? I probably do.
I know a few.
Laura Murphy, who was on our show many years ago talking about Mr. Mom.
That's right, director of Girl Code, but many better things since the ancient times.
What was it? She did you ever see, she was a director on a murder mystery Netflix show, which they would do improv live with Will Arnett. It was fantastic. Basically, like Will Arnett was the one actor who had lines, but they would have a guest star on the show who didn't know what was going on and would have to react. Like Conan O'Brien was on it. Sure. Nanjiani was on it. It was actually really, really fun. She is honestly a terrific director. We should get her back on.
We should get her back.
Yeah. We should have got her back to talk about High Fidelity.
We actually probably should have, but this is part of our summer series, as it were.
And if we're timing this correctly, I don't know if we are. We have no idea how time works at all whatsoever. We plotted this out just a few nights ago. But if you are listening to this, potentially, Matt, you are currently getting married at this moment while this episode is playing.
The Nebula version of this show would be going live or would have gone live right before the ceremony.
So people who are listening to this immediately can write us in at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com to wish you a happy wedding day.
That's true.
And then the thing I wanted to kind of like come into with the theme of this movie is top 5 potential songs for your first dance.
Oh, we have a list.
Do you have a list?
Yeah, but they're not great. Hold on, let me pull it up. I wasn't expecting this.
I didn't think you were.
First dance, here we go. So we actually, you know what? We don't have a top 5 yet.
We'll just give me some names.
So the one that I wanted to do, but we can't learn soft shoe in time enough, is Mike Snow, Genghis Khan. Which I don't know if you...
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Because the music video, they do like a cool little dance.
Like James Bond
and James Bond and the villain fall in love.
Yeah. I watched that recently because it's a great video.
And then Tears for Fears, Head Over Heels, I think is good.
Wait, hum it to me because I know a lot of Tears for Fears.
I
Head over.
Something like that. And then hold on. My dad just sent one in actually weirdly last night, which is super uncharacteristic of him.
Yeah.
He said, hey, his texts are so bad. I love you, Dad, but God, your hands have been ruined by roofing. Happy, hey, this may sound crazy, but I heard a song today that would be perfect for your dance song with Jamie or you and Mom. Check it out and listen to the lyrics. It's Cheap Trick, The Flame.
Okay.
Which I have not yet listened to, but let's put it on the list.
Okay.
I'm going to combine these because my mother and I have been talking about our dance as well. We only have 2 or 3 on each.
Yeah.
The one of them was, I couldn't believe that my mom just got into metal.
Okay.
Which is so strange.
Sure.
And she's like, she liked to cover this, like a lower, like a not super popular metal guy who covers stuff and I shit you not, Toss a Coin to Your Witcher.
I don't know what that is.
That is the song from the Netflix show The Witcher.
Okay.
And my mom does not watch that show and does not play the games or has not read the books. And now she knows all about The Witcher because she likes this guy who did a cover of this song from a Netflix show based on a video game based on a book from Poland.
Wait, hold on. So many questions. Does the song Toss a Coin to Your Witcher have lyrics?
Yes.
And so in the TV show, someone sings "Toss a Coin."
There is a character that is a bard.
It's like a lyric.
It's a bard.
Limerick.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the last one I'll say is I'll jump back to me. Oh no, Wildflowers by Tom Petty was another one for my mom. And then the last one's doing 5. There's a Mitski song that Jamie and I really love called "If I Leave."
Mitski.
Yeah. We bought the album, like the actual vinyl. This is great that we're talking about this movie too. Because I've been getting, like any middle-aged man, I've been getting back into vinyl.
Oh yeah.
And it's been a really fun journey to do that. But that's a really lovely, sort of like dark lilting song that like gets very emotional and like has a really cool loud part. So we'll see where we land.
I haven't done this in a while because I got married 20 years ago.
Sure.
Which shows how old I am. But we did our walkout to a New Zealand song called Tana Mahuta by a band called the Ruby Sons, which I loved. And then our first dance was to a song by Chitano Valenzo called Cucurucucu Paloma.
Oh, I know that. I think I know that track.
Yeah. And it was a neat. Though I heard that as a needle drop from the movie Happy Together, the Wong Kar-wai movie. It's the opening track to that movie. It's also in Pedro Almodovar's film Talk to Her. I think they perform it live in there. I think Cicciano I'm pronouncing his name wrong, but Cicciano Valanzo performs it live in that movie. I think.
Nice.
It was also, I think, in Moonlight.
I think it was. And actually, the name of it reminded me, just from a lyrical sounding perspective, of a song that I should probably transition out of the familial / first dances into being the first actual dancing song at the wedding, which I just thought of right now.
What is the first dancing song?
Well, I don't know. I'd have to run this by Jamie, but it could be already in a couple hours from when you're listening to this, dear listener, the 5, 6, 7, 8s from Kill Bill, because that's a really good, like, that's out of any song. Like, that's a good, like, just quick sort of get you moving into, like, it's not the best song, but it's a really good starting song.
It's also got like that real British new wave kind of bob thing to it, like the Austin Powers. So if anyone, because I'm dressing up as Austin Powers.
As you should, yeah.
Dude, by the way, this actually occurred to me the other night because I think I saw a video of someone else's wedding where the groomsmen did a dance. And I was like, do we need to do anything?
You do not. Listen, if you guys want to do a dance, you're more than welcome to play it.
Is there anything we need to be doing? Because like I have not done.
You have to get your suit from that place that I sent you, and then you have to. I'm going to basically like Friday morning, or not Friday morning, Friday evening / Saturday morning. There'll be like small tasks that I'll need help with as we go.
Okay.
But there's no event that you need. You need to come to rehearsal and rehearsal dinner. But at rehearsal, figure out where you're standing and when you walk up and who you're walking up with. But other than that, the groomsmen I've learned this about weddings. Apparently the bridesmaids have so much to do and the groomsmen don't have a lot. In fact, our wedding our coordinator over at the place we're getting married is like, anytime there's a tiny task, they're like, just get the groomsmen. They're not doing anything. And I was like, I guess that's true. I'm fine with it. So we'll be doing smaller tasks. We might be like placing things on tables or something at a certain point.
I've done that before.
Yeah.
So again, listeners, the reason why we're doing our summer series is that Matt is getting married. I'm going on vacation. We've probably got other things coming up as well. And we thought it was a great opportunity to revisit some of the classics that we love. And this was actually spurred on by the fact that there's a local coffee and cake shop, by the way, right by us called Make Believe Coffee Shop.
Make Believe Bakery.
Make Believe Bakery, run by lovely owners, Tom and Nicole, which I just smirked at because of Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman.
Shout out to both of them.
Shout out to both of them and both the owners as well. But I was in there and Tom's great. He plays a lot of music when we're in there. And so I'm always talking to him about music. And I was in there one day and he played the Beta Band. And I was like, have you seen High Fidelity? He goes, this is where I got that song from. We started talking about that. He also suggested another movie that we're going to hopefully be doing, possibly not for the summer series, but eventually on the podcast, Casino as well, which we hopefully will have a fantastic guest for.
It's so funny. I was in that coffee shop working and that is when Tom found out just through casual conversation, because he mentioned that someone else had a podcast that comes in here and his name was Shahir. And I was like, yeah, we're on the same one. And then
that's my Shahir.
And then literally 5 minutes later, you walked in the door.
And then again, in that sort of like mode of like what I love about High Fidelity, he was playing a song from Rushmore, one of my favorite movies, one of my favorite needle drops. He was playing a song by The Faces, which is Rod Stewart's old band. It's called Ooh La La, and it's the end song for Rushmore. And so what I love about all of this is when I was young, I always wanted to work at a video store, and I never did. Like I always wanted to like be the guy behind the counter. Like
I think Clerks and a couple other things sort of made that the thing.
But also like Empire Records, and this movie.
Yep.
It's that idea of like you worked retail but hung out and got to talk about the things you love because people would come in wanting to buy them.
The closest thing I got to do, and I've mentioned this multiple times in the podcast, was and I use air quotes, working at the Premiere 8. I never worked there. I just hung out and kind of worked there for free.
And you were like the guy in Clerks, right? Like,
and then we just partied there when the movie, or they'd invite me. Like my payment was that they'd invite me to like Tuesday when they used to actually do builds of movies, like put them together or get the reel set up or whatever. And they'd screen them late night on Tuesdays, whatever was coming out on Friday. And so I got to see a lot of movies early, which was and then we did like bike races down the lanes in the theaters and stuff. It was very, very fun.
And so this is I think,
by the way, the Premiere 8 no longer there.
I'm sure. Yeah. It's now an Exit 8, right? Which is also a movie.
Yeah.
this is kind of a cultural thing that I think perhaps a lot of our listeners born after like the 1990s, which there are many, will not be aware of, which is the retail hangout place.
Yeah,
like
the third space is dead. Long live the third space.
There's one right now, which is not necessarily a third space. I'm hoping to do something there in terms of a project. But in New York City, there's Book Off, which is it's a secondhand bookstore and DVD store. But it's a people come in and sell stuff. It's far more organized than this place is and far more polite. It's a Japanese chain, so they're very organized and polite in there. But they have like a really cool DVD section, Blu-ray section. What's funny is they've moved it underground now to the second floor, so it's like you literally go down to the basement. I love that place. I hang out there all the time, but it's not like the cool thing about the cultural side of this, which would remind me of many stores that I've been to, is that you would talk to other people there. You would you'd be flicking through the shelf and you would find this movie and you'd pick it up and hold it. And someone would come up and say, that's a great movie, or I hate that guy.
For me, that was Kim's Video.
Yeah, Kim's Video.
But is that still out?
So famous story about Kim's Video is that Alamo Drafthouse has purchased the collection from Kim's Video. So there's a documentary about it called Kim's Video. Kim's Video, the entire collection is very rare. And got sold, and eventually, for a little while, I think the collection ended up in Germany or somewhere another country.
Where the Alamo is.
They shipped it off somewhere, and they were trying to figure out what to do with this entire collection. And then Alamo Drafthouse bought Kim's Video, and so if you go into the Alamo Drafthouse right now, I think there's a small setup of Kim's Video.
Oh, in the city?
In the Brooklyn one, I think.
Okay. But the store is gone.
The store is gone, but the legacy lives on.
Sure.
My favorite story about Kim's Video as well is because of course, as soon as I moved to New York City, that's the first place I went.
I knew about that place before I moved here.
Yeah, I went in there and I was like perusing their sections, and they had the Australian cinema sections. And Peter Jackson was in the Australian cinema section.
You instantly started raging.
I was just like, and this was that moment. I had my Ron Swanson moment, by the way, which is like, I know more than you. I went, I was buying something else, and I was like, hey, by the way, you've got Peter Jackson. I think they might have had Jane Campion in there as well in the Australian section. And the guy like looked at me blank faced and he was like, well, Peter Jackson's actually Australian. And I looked at him and I was like, I'm sorry, sir. That would be like saying George Lucas is Canadian.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's a good analogy.
And he was like, no, it is. And I was like, I'm from New Zealand. He's from my home. And we got into this thing, and it was like, it wasn't like a fun conversation. No. I was like, I wanted it to be a fun thing, and it wasn't.
It was a conversation that any conversation Jack Black has with any character in this movie was the tone and tenor of what you're.
I know. It was really fun. But I do like Kim's Video. I love what I think this movie kind of gets into, which is the curation of the specific.
Yeah.
Like ultra specific details.
And now it's so funny because these spaces are gone. They're so rare and few and far between. Email us in at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com if you have a local video or record store that still exists that still exists and you like going to, or that you have a favorite from the past, because I think that's really important to sort of remember and sort of treasure. The thing that's interesting now is the closest I have. There's a wonderful group in Astoria that does every like 3 or 4 times a year. They call it RPG Fest.
Yeah,
and it's a bunch of people coming together that I've met a bunch of really, really amazing folks that sort of have like this in the nerd community to run all different kinds of games, not just D&D or any of the super popular ones, but like really niche and like independent ones. And there was one that I played, called Save the Music, Damn the Man. Okay. Which is essentially a game. It's a one shot where you essentially play Empire Records. Like it's not tied into it, but it's like you have one night.
Empire Records.
You have one night. You're all different like tropes.
Yeah.
Your characters are, and you have one night to save your record store. And there is a famous artist coming in the middle of the day, and like it's really, really fun. You play it with a deck of cards. You don't even have to roll anything. Or I think you might have a D6.
Yeah.
But the cool part was, and I'm trying to remember the name of this place, there was an old Astoria bowling alley and really shitty bar. This was like 4 years ago, and it would been around since the 70s.
Yeah.
And we went and played there at one of the tables because we didn't have anywhere, like no one could use their house or whatever.
Yeah.
And we played, me and the group there played the game Save the Music, Damn the Man, about saving a business on its last night, and we found out that was the last night that bowling alley was open.
Oh, no.
And so the vibes of like, and we did in our game, we did end up saving our store, but like it was also this weird sort of like cosmic bittersweetness because This, again, an establishment I'd never been to, this bowling alley. But, like, you could tell that, like, the regulars there really gave a shit.
Yeah.
And the workers, not so much. But let me be clear. This was not like, this is a treasure of the past.
Right.
But it was interesting to do that, like, at a third place establishment, playing a game about one of those closing at the last night of one of them that you could not save.
It sounds like it'd be a good video game. I think that we were talking about that mixtape recently as well. I also want to shout out the last place that I went to that was like this, that was like a discovery, was in Battleboro, Vermont, a place called Turn It Up Records.
Oh, cool.
I was there, and it was just like, and I took some photos of it and I put it up on my Instagram. Really cool store. It was like, I bought like 5 movies for $1 each or something like that.
Record stores seem to, like, vinyl stores seem to still exist in every major city. Whenever I go to, like, Portland with Jamie, there's a few that we just walk down and check out.
Yeah.
I'm not a big, as far as, like, vinyls right now, I don't look for, like, anything new, honestly, except for video game soundtracks.
Yeah.
But everything else is like finding, like, Arlo Guthrie for like $2.
Yeah.
Or the Cats soundtrack of the original 80s run.
Remember, I went to not Studio City, what's the Industry City, and I found a couple of records, and I was like, I think Matt would like this.
Yeah. And actually, the only new one I got was that Mitski track, because I heard Jamie sent one of the things, the tracks to it, and I was sitting in a car waiting to, like, move it, and I was like, I could order this, and it was like, they were only printing 1,000, and I was like, great, it's mine. It's like, and the song was about a cat, and the album is pressed on vinyl that looks like a cat's eye, like, sort of colors. I'm a sucker for the gimmick vinyl as well.
Gimmick vinyl, yeah.
I have the K-pop Demon Hunters vinyl.
Yeah.
And that has a really great image of both Huntrix on one side and the Saja Boys on the other. To the point where when I ordered it, sometimes when they're detailed, the play quality is bad.
Yeah.
And the one I got was the most warped fucking thing in the world. And it just skipped, and I sent it. It took like 5 months, and I finally have one that works.
So you can see why we wanted to do this movie, which is that it does conjure up this nostalgia. I think on the interesting side as well, it is also I thought it was a fun idea to do this movie because it's ultimately there's something about the actual kind of characteristics of the characters in this movie, which is their snobbish sort of gatekeeper quality about, like, music. And I was like, that is what I am to movies as well. Like, there's a sort of snobbish quality, and it's like there's a great version of it, which is when you can, like, talk to people. Like, Shivali notices this about me wherever I go. Like, I can talk to anyone generally anywhere because eventually the conversation will come to movies. Sure. And movies is one of those things that people, like, have. And I was at a baseball game on Friday last week, the Mets versus the Yankees.
A place where they traditionally don't play movies.
Yeah, and I was reading a book while I was there.
You fuck.
Because I was like, I know there's, like, I'm not a big baseball guy.
I say that, but if it was culturally okay, I would be on the Switch at a baseball game. I would just not be.
And then so the guy next to me started a conversation. We started talking about books, and we started talking about movies. And it was like, and Shivali knows this thing, which is like, yeah, again, because I have a wide berth of movie knowledge, I can kind of, like, jump into conversations pretty quickly with people. And, like, it's not just the movies, it's also, like, what the movies talk about and that sort of thing as well. Like, one of my favorite things is my wife works with a very, very, very senior oncologist who is, like, one of the world's leading scientists in their particular field, also a medical doctor. And whenever we see him, he only wants to talk to me about movies because this guy has a really deep knowledge of movies. Sure. It amazes me, this guy as well. He's a very, again, senior oncologist. And he loves movies so much that he wakes up at 4:00 in the morning to watch movies before his rotation starts because that's the only time he has.
Yeah.
But he'll use that to, like, I think the thing we talked about was, like, Kim Ki-duk, which is the Korean filmmaker. Like, this guy knows movies, and he's like, he'll wake up at 4:00 in the morning to watch, something from somewhere. Like, the last one, he passed me a message on, because he'll pass messages on to Shivali via me to me, was Bygone's Resurrection, which is currently streaming on Netflix. No, on Criterion Collection. So it's like, we can kind of have these kind of, like, strange conversations. And that's what I love about this movie as well, is, like, the real specificity of it.
Yeah.
And the kind of conversations that come up. But obviously, it's also a relationship movie. It's also, I mean, it is a relationship. No, okay,
It is a movie about relationships.
100% a relationship movie. Whether people think it's a romantic comedy or not is obviously a slightly different. So I think it is a comedy that revolves around concept of romance.
Yeah.
But not necessarily a romantic comedy.
I agree with that.
And in so much as there's no grand gesture or coming together of people that requires like a leap of faith, which is what a romantic comedy kind of does. This is a movie that really revolves around basically cataloging a person's romantic life and then deciding to settle. And in a good way.
Yeah. So because this movie came out in 2000.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes when you watch movies of this time period, they either completely hold up somehow or do not hold up at all. And this is sort of in my own opinion. When I sort of go back and watch, there'll always be something where like if there's an element that in the 2000s was fine that right in 2026 is not, I will get bucked and I'll be like, oh, fuck. Oh, okay. Like, and I understand there's ways around that, but I'm just saying like my initial lizard brain reaction.
No. And there's a rape joke in this movie and there's Cosby jokes in this movie where you're like, oh yeah, okay.
But this is sort of my point here. This is a movie that both I think doesn't work in 2026 and completely works in 2026.
Every day as a small business owner feels like solving a puzzle. One moment you're cruising along, and the next, there's a shipping snag that has you scrambling. But here's a surprise you will like. With Progressive, small business owners save 13% on their commercial auto insurance when they pay in full. So go ahead, surprise yourself. Get a quote in as little as 8 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
Truckers aren't just moving goods. They're making sure bakers get their chocolate chips and hotels get their tiny soaps. But truckers can't do this if they're not on the road. That's why Progressive has over 360 heavy truck employees to help truckers stay on time and on track. Quote truck insurance today in as little as 8 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
I think that this is an odd dichotomy because most every problem that this movie has from a 26 years later perspective is still, I feel like what it's going for is something honest, but that honest thing is not shiny. Like it is. I like, for instance, I don't think the main character played by John Cusack, Rob. I don't think he's like a good dude.
Oh, no, he's the villain of the film.
Yeah. But the interesting thing about this movie, and so often it's something that John Cusack can do so well, is like basically he gives exposition to the camera the entire time. Side note, little bit before we dive into like the movie specific, Jamie was out running errands yesterday and she's like, oh, if I get home early enough, I'll watch the movie with you. And I was like, oh, cool. She's like, yeah, I'd love to. She literally said, I'd love to rewatch it. I'm like, awesome. I waited. She got stuck in the trains. She said, you can start the movie without me. And then she got back home like an hour into the movie, right? She sits down, and this is an old movie. We're going to spoil it right away. So it's during the conversation where Rob is talking to Laura on when Laura finally ends up sleeping with Ian. Yeah. Okay.
What Ian guy?
Yeah. And Jamie sat down at that point, and I was gauging the reaction of Rob, and I was like, you just slept with that awesome hot singer. Like, how can you be pissed off? And I said something like that out loud. Right.
What? Right.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And then Jamie just like nodded her head.
Yeah.
And then Jamie goes, I have to tell you something. I've actually never seen this movie. I always wanted to, and my brothers always kicked me out of the room whenever they were watching it. And so I just wanted to sound like I'd seen the movie.
To you?
To me. And I was like, get it. We can restart it. Like, I just gave you a huge, I guess, spoiler for this thing. And but she actually didn't even clock what I had said, which was very, very good.
Yeah.
And we didn't restart it. She didn't want to, but we'll now I own it, I guess. So we'll go back and watch it. But it was just very funny.
Oh, absolutely. She should watch the movie. I'm surprised that she had put
I've done that too. Yeah. I've done that too. When you get into a especially when you're in a flow state conversation about movies, if it won't slow down the conversation and it feels like it's a mention, not the point of a conversation, I will sometimes be like, oh yeah, no, I've seen that. Like so
you'll lie about it.
Yeah. Because otherwise, especially if you're liking the flow of where something is going, because if you say you haven't seen it, depending on who you're talking to, and you have to judge this yourself, oftentimes it will derail the conversation. Oh my God, you have to see it because of X, Y, and Z. And this. But if you're interested in where the conversation is going other than the aside, that's when I'll sort of speed bump it. And I don't know if that's what she did.
And again, we will talk about
High Fidelity.
We will talk about High Fidelity. I think I've definitely made the mistake of thinking I have seen something, and then
I've done that too.
Yeah, and realizing that I hadn't. So there's that. But what I have, I guess it's maybe age or time or what have you, is I guess at this stage of my life also very confident about my film knowledge. And so when someone mentions something that I haven't seen, I'm very like, oh, I haven't seen that.
To be clear, a lot. Yeah. I can't remember the last time I did that, but it was more in college. There was one, and I'm not going to blast this person. There's one person in particular in college where the conversations were always so long and bad that I would roll through and just be like, no, I saw whatever. Just
college, I can definitely see that happening in college. I guess what I'm saying now is that like, I actually really enjoy it when someone brings up something
There's an interest point
where it's like, oh, I haven't seen that. Tell me about it.
Yeah.
And it's a way to kind of like make continue the conversation, like especially a thing I love to do now is if I talk to people from like other cultures and it's like, I was having a conversation with an Albanian couple the other night. And again, we started talking about movies. We were talking about their favorite movies. Their favorite movie was The 400 Blows and Orpheus. Not Orpheus, Beauty and the Beast. No, it was L'Atlante.
Both films I have not seen.
Renoir or Cocteau film? Renoir. And then I was like, oh, you're from Albania. Tell me about some Albanian movies. They were like, there's not a lot.
Right? Yeah.
And then, but it was just like, I really don't know a lot about Albanian movies. Can you, let's have a conversation about it. So I think it's, I have this thing now, and it is like, I really enjoy being the dumbest person in the room, like because it means like you get to exercise your curiosity.
That's my favorite thing at work.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, because like all I have to do is bring smart people together. I don't have to be the smart one. I just have to make the smart people have a place where they're comfortable to make the coolest thing that they can.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like it's a fun way to be like, I really don't know about the thing that you do. I would love to learn more about the thing you do. And I like the great thing about conversation is like the key to great conversation is great listening. You know what I mean? So anyway, so that I'm not surprised by it, but it's great that Jamie kind of was like, I've seen this movie. I wanted to be one of the cool kids, but she should absolutely watch it.
We got it now, so it's totally. It's totally
also
happen.
a great marriage movie. A great movie about like what marriage can be in some way.
Because again, at the core of High Fidelity, and I was sort of wrestling this after rewatching it, and I've always kind of thought this, but this is a great movie too. Like when you're in your 20s, you get a real different read of this movie than you
Rob
do.
Is the hero of the movie when you're in your 20s,
and then you absolutely don't. And like we keep using the word settle, but it's more just like realizing what life kind of is.
What I mean by settle is, who do you think is settling in this movie?
Oh, Laura's settling 1,000% in this movie.
She's 1,000% settling in this movie.
Yeah, and it happens after a tragic moment that kind of wakes her up to the passage of time in her life. Yeah. But like the thing I like about this movie is it doesn't like call out the settling as necessarily bad. Yeah. It's just something that like, and actually there's one monologue near the end from Rob about like
panties.
No, no, but like but kind of where that monologue is trying to lead to, and that is like
the panties monologue is so funny to me because it's like he thinks he's mentioning such a great thing. I was like, you're such an asshole.
Yeah. And like the objectification of women in this movie is fucking insane. Yeah. But again, it is a very 2000s 20-year-old guy kind of vibe to it.
Yeah. But he's like in his 30s in this movie.
Well, but but the whole thing is about his Arrested Development, right? Yeah, he never moved on. I love when they go back in time and like it's supposed to be him in high school or college or whatever it is, and it's just him with like moppier hair and stupider sunglasses and a leather jacket.
Yeah.
I'm like, thanks, John Cusack.
All right, we should try and structure the conversation.
Why? It's so fun to go everywhere. Joan Cusack's in this. She's great too.
And are they like one of the best brother-sister couples in the movie as well? Like, so
move over Gyllenhaal's.
Yeah, exactly. And Grosse Point Blank was the other big one that they're both in as well, where she plays his fixer.
Yeah.
He'd obviously this is prime John Cusack, and it's interesting because he's still around, but he has, in terms of like popularity, he's obviously faded out a little bit in terms of I don't think he opens a movie now or anything like that, but he is still great. And this is obviously also one that he wrote along with Grosse Point Blank. And this is him reuniting with Stephen Frears, who I believe he worked with on The Grifters as well. Stephen Frears, amazing British auteur. The key films of his are My Beautiful Laundrette and Dangerous Liaisons, which I remember watching at a party when I was like 11 and thinking was going to be saucy, but it was like Dangerous Liaisons. So it's this like weird melding together. And then of course it is also adapted from a Nick Hornby novel.
Yes, which I've not read.
I've not read Nick Hornby's other big ones are About a Boy and Fever Pitch.
I would be so curious. Actually, I should just read this. I'm sure it's not a terribly long read.
No, and I think it's like a really popular guy read.
Right, but I think the interesting thing here is I know John Cusack is a co-writer on this, or a writer, the full writer.
No, him and Scott Rosenberg.
Scott Rosenberg, thank you. But I'd be curious how much of Rob's internal monologue dialogue is lifted straight from the book and how much is something that they crafted.
Oh, apparently this is one of the best adaptations of a book ever made. And in terms of like, it really does follow the book. But of course, the book is set in London.
Yeah.
And the Chicago translation was like a thing that everyone was really nervous about because people love the book.
Yeah.
And
Chicago's such a great place for this movie, though.
And in terms of, it is such a great play, and I think what makes the translation work is that there's like the movie requires specificity, and like when he's walking outside of the movie theater where Al Capone got shot, like there's a real specificity to it. Like we're not just bringing it here, we're also literally finding not just the analogs, but like the corresponding stories that actually work here. So when he's walking across the bridges and stuff. I think, it's a great translation. It's great writing. The other thing for me that I think I noticed this time around when you mentioned the first person monologues as well, and as well as it being a Chicago movie, I don't think the movie ever speaks to this or feels like this, but I kind of read it this way on this rewatch, was that to me, and this is just, like this idea of categorizing films autobiographically in my world, is that this movie has a direct precedent and feels like a descendant of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Like it is,
interesting.
And I was kind of like, this is Ferris Bueller's Day Off if Cameron was the lead and had grown older. Like I kind of read Cameron.
And moved to Chicago?
They were in Chicago.
They were in Chicago,
Sausage King of Chicago.
Yeah. This is Abe Freeman?
Abe
Freudman?
Yeah. This is like Cameron. It's not like a one-to-one, but I felt like this was like, this read to me like a Ferris Bueller's like control of the narrative kind of thing.
But the dead-eyed, chin down, Cameron, eyes up, kind of like I'm sick of everything that Rob gives is very Cameron.
Yeah. Imagine if Cameron moved out, started a record store, after the Ferrari incident didn't play out as he planned.
I should actually, by the way, because this episode's all over the place because there's so many fun things to talk about. The Internet Movie Database, in case anyone was wondering how they describe High Fidelity, they say it's like this. Rob, a record store owner and compulsive list maker, recounts his top 5 breakups, including the one in progress. Which is a good little fun description.
It's also, it's like very 2000s in so much as like it borrows from the Seinfeld thing, which is that it's a movie about nothing. Like it's literally a listicle. He's making a list of his top 5 breakups, and the progression from one to the other is very like start stop. Like it's just like seeing this thing happen from one person to the other. And as I mentioned, as a romantic comedy, it doesn't like end in a grand gesture or something. I guess other than the two of them having sex later on. But Laura has just left him at the beginning of the movie. He is a record store owner who's kind of like fallen into this world. I love the line that he has. He is lovelorn in so much as he read Love in the Time of Cholera and The Unbearable Lightness of Beings and sort of understood what they meant. It's about chicks, right?
Yeah.
And so in terms of like his relationship to romance and love, it is very much a accumulation thing. It is akin to what they do at the record store, which is that it is a list and it is like a categorized list.
And it's and truly what it seems like he does with his relationships is like records and music. It's the commodification of them. Like it's not that he doesn't have an emotional.
I would use a different word. The categorization of them. That's what I think is really important to him, is like putting them into categories and assigning them places.
I think up until the end of the movie with Laura, he treats every relationship like a commodity as well. I think it's categorization. I mean, this whole movie is about making lists.
Yeah.
But I think his main in fact, the only problem I think he kind of gets over by the end is not treating Laura and their relationship like a commodity anymore. I think, that's sort of an undercurrent too. Like the way that Rob moves about his life is a way, again, I feel like every 20s American guy who
not just American, man.
Okay, well, just because this is what was said here, but like you kind of have this idea, if you're lucky enough to be in this position or privileged enough to sort of like think you're the center of the universe, or like maybe not logically, but like emotionally, that's how you sort of put yourself in the world. And like, you know, I don't know about you and your past relationships.
I've only had a very few.
Really?
Yeah. I am I guess you'd call me like a serial monogamist.
Okay. Yeah. I've had a lot.
Really?
And they've ranged from like, it's funny, like they've ranged. I still consider my first girlfriend, whose name was Natalie, in middle or high school. That's my first girlfriend, but we only were together for like a week and a half.
Right.
But we called it that. So I'm like, sure. Yeah. And like, again, is that a real relationship? No, you're children. But like, it's in my head. If I was to make a list, that would be the first one.
I definitely have had many heartbreaks, but I don't know if I could make a top 5 list.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I could probably make a top 10.
Right.
But regardless, the
I think I just revealed how many people I've slept with.
Yeah, but seriously, like there's a way in your early 20s, I feel like, and I'd be so curious. Seriously, and anyone who's in their early 20s right now, please email us in at onlymophiepodcast@gmail.com, because I know relationships and dating and all that stuff is
so different now.
A fucking nightmare now.
Yeah.
And a very different one.
Yeah.
I would love to know if like, this is also difficult. It's hard to judge that vibe while you're in it. Yeah. So here's the assignment. 20 years from now, email us in at onlymophiepodcast@gmail.com and tell us if you remember in your 20s in 2026, if you felt like you were the center of your sort of like emotional dating universe.
So yeah, that's the thing I wanted to come back to is I think, you know, Rob even says here, I'm a mid-7 at best, you know, like,
he says he's mid. I don't think he gives himself a number.
I think he said he
goes in and says he's average. He's not the stupidest, but he's not smartest.
And he talks about the fact that Catherine Zeta-Jones, Charlie's character, is way out of his league. Yeah. He's like, why am I trying to head out? You know, this is not my spot, you know? And I think, so there's an interesting thing that came out of, I think, the 90s, 2000s, which was, I want to say predicated by Hugh Grant in 4 Weddings and a Funeral, but probably comes, you know, there's probably more examples of this before that.
Or maybe society leaked into that movie than something that was already coming down the pipe.
I was thinking about the fact that like Wuthering Heights, you know, like Heathcliff as a dandy kind of thing, like an early version of like the forlorn lover who feels like he is entitled to love, but like, you know, doesn't get it because he is not the center of the universe in the world that he exists.
The 2000s incel.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that also comes from like the thing I mentioned to you before about John Cusack, which is that he, to me, reads as a cinematic Chandler Bing.
Yes.
You know, like he's got that sort of like sardonic, ironic, sort of very acidic, acerbic kind of like tongue to him that he uses as a deflection for the fact that he is not the alpha male, you know, like, or he is not the guy who's like scoring the girls. And
could he be any more sarcastic?
And what I think is interesting about this, and why I thought this was fun, another fun reason to do this movie as a moment of self-reflection, is that he uses his like music knowledge, his ability to curate, which is like really specific and strong, to counteract the fact that physically or, you know, like where his success in life and what have you is very, very middling.
Yeah.
Like he dropped out of college. He, you know, like his love life caused him to drop out of college and then woke up and he was like in a record store kind of thing.
He was a DJ. And then
Yeah. And I think it has to do with this, like the sort of not weaponization, but like the kind of the way we use the curation of this very specific niche as like our guardrails for how we navigate the world. And the characters that circle around the record store are clearly that. Like he was like, I can't fire these guys.
I hired them for 3 days a week 4 years ago, and then they just started coming in every day.
This is it's such a great first off, this movie is a star-making turn from Jack Black, who had been around for a little bit, but like you know, like I think at this point, maybe the most famous thing he'd done was he was in Bob Roberts with Tim Robbins.
Mm-hmm. Played Barry here.
Yeah, and it's such a star-making turn in this movie. Like, and there was a scene where I think he and Rob get into a fight at the beginning of the movie because it has to do with the song they're playing. And there's this moment where like Jack Black as a performance kind of like coils up and he goes, I will cut you, and he just does this thing and he just walks off. And I was like, man, that's good.
It's what Jack Black is, right? Like you could tell that like, and now that we've sort of seen Jack Black's trajectory and where he's gone and who he is as a performer, and you can kind of see like, I think this is like kind of the core of who he actually is in a way.
And one thing that like I didn't understand this until talking to my son and hanging, seeing what his friends are, is like Jack Black is one of the most important movie stars for like Gen Alpha. Like Minecraft movie, Super Mario Brothers, like he is an important movie star. They all know who he is. They don't know Tenacious D.
Right.
They don't know this movie, but this is like.
Also, I'm sure like even some of the older ones, like the newer Jumanjis.
Yeah, Jumanjis as well. Like this Jack Black is probably bigger to those kids than The Rock, than Jason Momoa, than a lot of, and this is why he's $1 billion guy now.
Yeah.
He is the Tom Cruise to, like in our day, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Tom Cruise, the alpha male. It's Jack Black now. He is such a critical figure in terms of like movie stars for kids today. And so it's amazing to watch this like early turn from him. And the other thing I want to say is like it's such a great balance between him and Todd Louise.
Yeah, playing Dick.
And the character
Luiso, I believe.
Luiso, the character that Todd Luiso plays is very, very similar to the character he plays in Jerry Maguire.
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's almost the same guy. It's like you can imagine that it's the same guy working the two different jobs. Remember in Jerry Maguire, he hands Jerry a tape of Miles Davis and Charlie Parker jamming in a basement, and he's like, when you're making love tonight, you should play this song. And they play it. And it's like this is awful. But it is that thing of like this sort of my knowledge of, all three of these guys have this incredibly specific niche knowledge of something, that allows them to exert some force in the world. And they're excited by this idea that like sometimes they can talk to people who have that on, particularly when it comes to talking to girls. This is a very heteronormative sort of thing, but like the fact that Charlie knows music was like a big deal to him, the Charlie knows records. But Laura, I think, like has a passing knowledge of the things that he likes, but she doesn't care.
Yeah.
And that cuts through like his thing. And that's what's disarming for him is that like he says it wasn't exciting. It wasn't like the fireworks explosion, but it was good. Really good.
Yeah.
And I think that's that sort of coming of age thing about this movie that really, really works, which is that he has to realize that the thing about settling, and again, she is settling, not him, is accepting that not just that there's a comfort to like being good, but consistency matters.
Well, I think it's funny because they're, younger in this movie, but it truly is sort of like a coming of age story about what is important in or what people start to think is important in the upcoming back half of their life.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of what it is. Like when you're young, everything is like big and explosive and you're looking for that
potential.
Next,
there's potential everywhere.
Yeah. And it's not that there's not potential, but I think the potential you see when you get older is a potential that is something that is a more slower burn or build than what you have in your 20s.
Yeah.
And the way that Rob navigates, this is how I think look, this movie is great and also makes me angry in a lot of different ways.
Angry.
But, yeah. Well, like Rob, the five people on Rob's list before one gets knocked off and goes to it moves into Laura being on the top five.
Yeah.
They're all women that he sort of in his mind's eye like blame, right, for his life kind of not going because he's just been so hurt and going in the right direction. And then after he has a great conversation, which is one of my favorite cinematic moments in any movie, which is when Bruce Springsteen just shows up. Yeah. Oh my fucking God, I lost my mind the first time I saw that. But it's just so good. He's having a conversation with
this is the sort of Ferris Bueller's Day Off thing about.
Yeah. And like the thing I love, the line that's always stuck with me, and I was gonna do it at the beginning instead, when he's like, and then I'd feel good and they'd feel good. And Bruce Springsteen goes, well, they'd feel good maybe, but you'd feel better. And it's like, that's the most honest thing. Like it's his brain going back and forth with like why he's doing this.
Yeah.
So like, obviously the onus of the sort of middle part of the movie is him doing that and trying to find answers and what does it all mean kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the way that he internalizes it is so fucking toxic. Like, whether or not what he finds out is true, the thing he keeps taking away from it is
it's not my
none
fault.
of these are my fault.
Yeah.
And
that's his win.
And again, in my 20s, I was like, this is amazing. And now I'm like, no, you're kind of just playing into these things to like try to alleviate yourself for something you definitely had at least 50% of. Like,
I think what's clever about the movie in that respect is that I think even watching it now, the movie doesn't make him out to be the victor in these scenarios. He's still an asshole.
You have to some are easier than others. So like, for instance, Penny Hardwick, played by Jolie Carter, when he gets, they go to the movies and then they go and get dinner.
She's a film critic now.
Yeah, she's a film critic.
Yeah.
And the realization for that one is he broke up with her. He somehow thought that she didn't want to sleep with him, and then she slept with someone else.
He was pressuring her to have sex. And
she didn't want to. And then
at that time.
And then when they broke up, there's a whole thing.
Yeah.
So but like in his head, she had wronged him. And then when he found out that he was the dumpee, he didn't reflect on, or the dumper, he didn't reflect on like why that happened. He's like, oh wait, so this isn't the heartbreak because I decided it.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay.
Like, and in that particular case, that is the one that is like the hardest in terms of watching this from a 2006 perspective, which is that she mentions the fact, like he, as he was growing up, he was upset by the fact that what he'd heard is that she'd slept with an ex-boyfriend. And what she says there is, no, I was really heartbroken from you breaking up with me, that I felt vulnerable. And then she says this thing, which is like the hardest part of this film, which is like, she says, it wasn't consent. I can't say that it was rape
because I said yes.
I said yes, but I couldn't sleep with someone else for a long time
until after college, and it was a big thing for her. Like so, like it's there's a really interesting
and none of that registers for him at all.
Nope. All it is he's off the hook.
Yeah.
And because he made the decision, and that is like okay, dude.
Yeah, he is. I wouldn't venture to use the language of today as like a toxic individual, but he's an asshole. And he continually, like, even to the end, and that's why I bring up the panties monologue, is that even till the end, he is considering like, oh, what would happen if I cheated on Laura right now? After spending the entire movie.
There's such an interesting third act. It's not even a turn. It's like an aside.
And what's great about the toxicity here is that he thinks that his revelation that I'm not going to cheat on her, and then he tells it to her, is like his moment of like coming of age, his growing up. And like, when you watch it now as an adult, it's like Laura just doesn't, she's like, I know who you are and I know what we're in for, kind of thing. But also, like, and she doesn't like read it that bad, because and this is why I like the idea of her settling, is that like, she's very much like, I'm a lawyer, I've got a good job. You've got this little great record thing that you're doing right now. Maybe you'll turn out this music thing. And she's very encouraging to him. But I don't know if these two are going to last, in this scenario.
Yeah, I don't know. At the end, it's funny because like she's a music columnist, I think. Caroline Fortes, Natasha Grayson Wagner plays her. And he starts making her a mixtape. Yeah. And like, this is like, there's 10 minutes left of the fucking movie. And you're like, what is happening?
But like he thinks that his revelation, and I think the movie doesn't think this, but his revelation is like, oh, I'm not going to cheat on Laura again. Because he has cheated on her. Yeah. That's the other thing, is the movie doesn't shy away from the fact that he's an asshole. Like that monologue about the 4 possible things that he's done that is like.
But then the movie does, and this is good, I think. The movie, like, you hear those things, that the conversation, the structure and the editing of a lot of the movies and how information is delivered is so good.
Yeah.
After that, it does.
He softens it.
Walk it back. And there's something.
But it's him softening it.
Yeah.
Like he's like saying, well, to be fair, this is my side of the story.
Yeah. Which, there's 2 sides to every story, and like that but makes total sense.
I don't think that softening sides away from the fact that he cheated on her while she was pregnant, which led to her having an abortion, and then he took money from her as well, which he has no way of paying back. Yeah. I was like, no, you're the asshole. Like that, like you're clearly the asshole through this whole movie.
So it's one of these films that like structurally, acting wise, script wise, even sort of how it's shot, it all works incredibly well together.
Yeah.
The story is messy but good. And it feels more, even if I don't like, we talk about like agreeing with characters or agreeing with what decisions they make, and like that's fine to do. Even with the disagreements that I have sort of like with the morality of what's going on, there is a real human messiness of the going from your 20s into your 30s or whatever it is, like the structural changes of how you think. And maybe look here, this is the interesting part about Rob. I don't think Rob has a full realization in this movie for any of the right reasons.
No,
but it seems like he kind of gets there, at least for now, even if he got there on the most toxic road one possibly can.
And that's this sort of thing about this movie, which is why this kind of movie doesn't exist today.
Yeah, I want to talk about that a little bit, but
is that not a lot happens. Like it is a listicle movie, and it is like not a lot actually changes in the movie, and not a lot really transforms. There's a lot that the great quality about it that people talk about is it's a hangout movie.
Yeah,
it is like like we're just hanging out with these characters. The movie is not propulsive. It is not driven forward by narrative beats and escalations. Whatever the closest thing you would say is the sort of a B or C story about the band, the skater punk teenagers.
Yeah.
Like that has a progression to it, which leads to something. But other than that, like it is literally just recounting love. And I say that with a sort of genuine sense of like, what have we lost right now? Because that's actually what is great about the movie as well.
It's interesting. It's funny that from a recording standpoint, we're recording this episode 2 days after we did Obsession.
Yeah.
You'll be hearing it a month later. Yeah. And if you haven't listened to our Obsession episode, please go back and do that. That was a really fun conversation. What a great film. Easily in my top 5 of the year so far.
Yeah.
But the thing about that is I think the only place we're getting the size and vibes of something like High Fidelity is horror these days. For instance, like we were talking about the self.
I'm giving you a face right now.
I know, the self-containment of Obsession, right? It's not like, oh, the police are coming. Yeah. Oh, now this thing is happening. Oh, the greater thing of the Willow, whatever. I'm not going to spoil anything for Obsession, but like it's really focusing on 4 characters. It's 4 characters in roughly 3 sets, and that's kind of what this movie does too. And again, that's looking at, I think it's a real interesting way of toxic relationships in 2026, but it's done as a horror film. I feel like a lot of horror, because of smaller budgets and maybe it's an easier sort of barrier to entry to get people in, or not even like to get people into a theater to tell a story about relationships in a horror setting these days. In 2000, you could just get someone to come in to watch a small movie about a guy crashing and burning out about his old relationships. Yeah. And now I think there is something that's sort of missing, but I think that's where I feel like horror is where whenever we lose a genre, I feel like horror kind of picks up the energy a little bit because it's the only thing that's cheap enough to make that also will get butts in seats.
Well,
it's not a perfect analogy.
I think the thing with horror though is horror is like there's a you mentioned commodification qualities to it, which is like it's easily digestible. This is a movie about a wish that goes horribly wrong. Yeah. There's a movie about a curse that you'll have to figure out. This is a movie about people hanging out in a record store, right? And so one of the biggest...
But the curse is his life. Like, he has to figure it out.
Well, one of the things here is that, like, not a lot happens in this movie. And, like, one of the biggest indies that came out for probably a decade before this movie was a hangout movie about 2 guys in a video store and a store around it. I don't know that there's a marketplace for... that kind of hangout movie, particularly in the case of independent features, right? Like the independent feature typically today would be based around horror because horror sells. And this reminds me of a monologue that James Gray gave a couple of years ago. Do you know who James Gray is? He's director of Ad Astra, which you guys did on the podcast.
Yes.
He's got a movie at Cannes right now, which is doing really, really well. Fantastic director. I think his film Two Lovers is kind of in this ballpark as well, and Little Odessa. I also love his film The Immigrant. He had a monologue a few years ago that really circulated around the time Ad Astra was coming out, or it might have been his film Armageddon Time. He said this thing which was like the viral clip was, he was like, you cannot tell me one line from the movie Aquaman. He goes, but if I said to you the line, make me an offer you can't refuse, everyone knows what I'm talking about, right? You know what make me an offer.
Yeah. But I would say the only caveat I would say is like in his age bracket.
I think he
like children wouldn't know that,
right?
You know what I mean? Gen Alpha.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. But what he's saying is that the extended part of that monologue.
They would know chicken jockey.
The extended, they would know chicken jockey. To be fair, yeah. They wouldn't connect it to an important thing in that movie. It's just a line that people say, right?
Right, but I think even the I'll make you an offer I can't refuse actually has transcended its movie too, because it became a pop culture thing. It became a meme before memes.
But it's not specifically just the line in that movie. Like there's an underlying thread about who this person is and what it is.
Oh, sure. The reason why that line transcended was because it was important to the movie. But this is the weird part. I'm sorry to sort of jump in. The chicken jockey thing is not important because it's a line that's important in the movie, but it's a line that was important to the experiencing of the movie, which is so fucking weird. Sorry, I derailed that.
And so what he talks about is this idea of the mid-range budget movie. And he said, if you go back and listen to that whole conversation that he has, one of the things he says is that if you take a look at the film industry from a bottom line financial success point of view, he says, what an interesting thing that's happened is we look at movies based on their entire financial bottom line and we go, that was a success, therefore we will make more movies like that. And he says, and the danger of that is you risk alienating a culture of people who go to see movies because it matters to them. And so, like a movie like High Fidelity off a $30 million budget made $47 million, which if you take into, the A&E cost or the actual marketing cost is probably underperformed.
Yeah, it barely broke even.
But you and I are two, again, admittedly older guys. We're still talking about this movie, 25 years later, and we will still talk about this movie as one of those great moments. We're still talking about Ferris Bueller's Day Off, 40 years after that movie came out. And his point being is that the financial health and success of a movie shouldn't necessarily dictate what we make as an industry at whole. Like the extension of that monologue.
You make the safe picture, then you make the art picture.
Well, the extension of that monologue was like, he was like, look, not all superhero movies are bad, but the problem is that's the only slate people care about because that's the only slate that continues to make movie because we're only looking at this algorithmically in terms of like what's going to make money and how we're going to keep continuing to make that money. And so when I come back to that conversation of what have we lost, it is kind of movies like this. Yeah. Like the Hangout movie, the movies that don't necessarily win all the awards and what have you. There was a adaptation of this show, of this movie into a TV show with Zoe Kravitz, who's Lisa Bonet's daughter, which is really fun. Yeah. And apparently it was great. Canceled after one season, during the COVID times, what have you. But apparently it was fantastic. And that conversation around the third space, I think we are yearning for that. Like, that's why I love going to Make Believe Coffee Shop and chat. And
I'll literally be going there in an hour and a half.
Yeah, and chit-chatting to those guys about music and having a coffee. And
I'll talk to Tom and Nicole about talking about Tom and Nicole.
Tell them that I made that joke, by the way, and they might be mortified and say, don't ever let that guy come in.
Do not do it.
Yeah, don't ever let that guy come back in here. You remember what happened to Tom and Nicole. We are not Scientologists. That third space is kind of going. And there's an interesting thing that we talked about in relation to Obsession as well. Obsession is a movie, that kind of speaks on the sort of anxiety around dating and the sort of forlorn love and that sort of thing. But it's not a movie that really lives in a social media space. And that was surprising because that's made by a 27-year-old guy. And
on that episode, I even called out, I think the reason why it doesn't is people are yearning for that not to be that
exactly, because I think people are yearning for a third space. Then this is basically my pitch now, which is that we're going to open a video store.
Fuck!
And we are going to sit there.
We're so busy.
We're going to sit there and argue all day about whether people should rent Navy SEALs or not. But to the point where people just walk out the door.
It's in the Army now or nothing.
But I think why this movie matters today, even though, it made $47 million, great. John Cusack is not the sort of, major star that he once was. He wrote a movie a few years ago, by the way, that I didn't see, but I was surprised that he's still writing movies because he basically wrote this and Grosse Pointe Blank, which is, Grosse Pointe Blank is also amazing.
Phenomenal.
And a couple of other things.
One of my favorite action comedy.
Yeah. I rewatched it last year and I was it's fantastic. And I think the sort of whether we've lost the sort of sardonic, gatekeeper guy, douchebag guy, whatever, that's fine. But the idea of these movies that cultivate conversation about things that really kind of matter to us, their conversation about which the top five first albums with top 5 first songs from first albums with the name in the title kind of thing. It's it's so specific.
God, I just got a bit of inspiration. Not that I have time or energy to do this, but like, where is the video game store version of this movie and this guy? Because in culture in culture, gaming is so gatekeepy and very toxic too.
The GameStop thing is like going,
But like I'm shocked there is not a video game store movie that is somewhat similar to this out there, because it would not be crazy expensive to make.
You know, what's interesting is I think with video games, the culture of gatekeeping specificity maybe couldn't express itself in the same way here, because like you couldn't go into a GameStop and buy mixtape. You know what I mean?
No, but there are friendly local game stores. There are game
there's
stores.
Definitely like board game stores that
but there's one or two independent. There's actually still some in the city that sell either retro stuff or sort of like a hodgepodge of everything. Right. Are they big and popular? No. Was Rob's record store big and popular?
But,
no.
But you know how like that scene where Jack Black is taking the guy through the Echo and the Bunnyman thing, and he's like, "You haven't heard this album?" You know, like going back through this history. I don't know that video games has that kind of
it doesn't
like someone's going, you got to play Resident Evil 1 or you got to play like,
well, it's getting there. That's the thing.
It's getting there over time, but also games came around at a
that's
point
what I'm saying.
where we had already transitioned to like an online store.
Maybe 10 or 15 years. Well, I mean, I don't want to do the math on this because I don't think I can do it fast enough, but like from the proliferation of music as a commodity, right? Like as something that you could either purchase or receive outside of just the radio. It went 8 tracks, then vinyl, then cassettes. And then how many years from vinyl to essentially streaming to like Napster, right? Like, because that's like what, maybe like 20 years, something like that, 25. And video games as a purchasable commodity are catching. I think it's probably longer than 25 for vinyl it definitely is. It's like 35 or 40 where video games are probably 25-ish to 30 depending on cartridges. Like, I'm just talking about like the population, like before, like I want the time when video games were, you were buying stuff on Atari into right before Steam became the main place where people were buying shit. And I think video games are coming up on catching up to that amount of years as music would be. You're absolutely right. Right now it's not, but there is going to be, I think, especially in the proliferation of the live service models and everything. So it's sort of like the shitification and the Fortnite-ification of almost all gaming. I think there are going to be people that like want to yearn for essentially something earlier, but I think we're not there yet. Maybe in 10 years I have to write this fucking movie with a bunch of young people in it.
My favorite story like this, just to sort of discuss why this was important and why it was fun to do in terms of like, I love flipping through the catalog, you know, like flipping through the discs or flipping through the thing. And, you know, like people will say like that CDs took that away from vinyl kind of thing and, you know, what have you, and DVDs kind of got added. But I remember being in like, sort of like a Virgin Megastore of New Zealand, like not a great store, but I was like flipping through it, and a guy standing next to me.
Strawberries?
What?
You never heard of Strawberries?
No, never heard of Strawberries. I think it was H&M in New Zealand. But I was flipping through, and a guy standing next to me, and he picks up a movie off a shelf, and he turns to the guy next to him and he goes, "Have you seen this? This is such a great movie." And the movie he was talking about was a Hugo Weaving movie called The Interview. An Australian movie from like, you know, decades ago.
And it was in the New Zealand section. It was really weird.
It was a different thing. But the thing that I was like always struck by, because he died a few years later, was like I realized who the guy was who picked up that movie. It was Andrew Lesnie. Andrew Lesnie is the cinematographer of Lord of the Rings. And he was in a video store, like flipping through, and he pulled up this movie that with Hugo. And he didn't say, I'm the guy. Yeah. It was just like, this is a fantastic little movie. And he, you know, like he was excited by that kind of like third place where you can like chat about these things, discover these things. And like the other thing I was thinking about today, because I just had a conversation with the Make Believe people. We were talking about our favorite music and what have you.
Is that where you got your coffee this morning?
That's where I got my coffee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I had this like running gag with Chevalier about the song that I want to play at my funeral. And like, I should probably put together a list of it. But I always said like LCD Sound System, All My Friends would be the one.
Okay.
And I say that because I went to a concert for the Ruby Sons, who we eventually played at our wedding, and I heard them, the DJ spin LCD Sound System's All My Friends before that, and I had a transcendent moment with that song. It was like the first time I'd ever heard it, and I was like, oh my God, amazing. And that discovery of that song was based upon like an accidental alignment of my taste and the environment that I was in. And now we don't do that. Now we get a Spotify algorithm which says you like this kind of X kind of music, so therefore you might like Y kind of music, which has some sort of like algorithmic alignment with these things.
I don't think there's at this point less helpful music discovery for any medium. I think music is really hard to discover new music that you'll like. The only thing I could think of that is worse than it is actually streamer and Twitch discovery, because there's literally nothing. Like you can't find things.
And why I say we yearn for the third place, and podcasting kind of is that, you know, like curates that parasocial relationship where
as does streaming.
And what's cool about that is like hopefully somebody hears this podcast episode and goes, oh, the Grifters, Stephen Frears, you know, John Cusack, maybe that's a movie I might be interested in, you know, like, and like kind of gets in passing. Maybe someone hears this and goes, the interview with Hugo Weaving, Andrew Lesney really liked that movie. Let me go check it out. And I have no idea what that movie is. It's not even in the zone of taste of things that I like, but it's like there. And that's where that thing we've lost in terms of the third space comes in, that I think is really beautiful about this movie in terms of capturing in a time and a place. And I don't think it's intentional on its part to say, like, I don't think they were making this in the year 2000 or 99 when they made this and going, this is a space that's really going away. It's more that it's a time capsule of that space.
Yeah.
And it's really cool and beautiful. And it's fun to watch now. A couple of minor criticisms is like the Beta Band song is really the only one I listen to and go, that was a great needle drop. And I'm like interested in hearing the rest of this. Like there's a Green Day, not a Green Day reference. It's a Green Day reference for another band at the beginning, right? But I don't remember what that song was.
It's one of Green Day's influences.
Yeah. I love Jack Black's like real specificity of list making and the mixtape making. It was like, you got to follow this song with that song. You got to like build them up and then drop them down just a little bit. You can't blow your load early. And then he's like, you know, and Jack Black's like, oh, so you're inserting like 3 safe bits with a cultural with a new one to show how relevant you are. Nice play. You know, like it's very like we are going to dig into the specificity of like
it's the meta of list making.
And the thing is, back then these people were assholes.
Yeah,
and they still are, and we are as well. And that's I kind of want to get to that as well. But there is, if you can kind of like hopefully jump on the train, there's things there's rubies to be discovered in amongst this maze, you know, like there is like these little gems of things that you find. And that, you know, like rewatching, I was like, this movie rules.
If I were to tell you that I hadn't watched Evil Dead 2 yet, you think I would want to watch? It's like, it's funny. One of my, I thought of a thing which I think would end pretty quickly. When they did the Evil Dead 2 thing, I was like, would it be fun to do a series on a podcast where you have to do the only way you could do the next episode is if you do a movie that is referenced in the movie,
a continuity thing.
And like you have to do some real reaching. But when the Evil Dead 2 hit, I was like, oh, that's interesting.
I think that would be fun. It's like it's the. I love the metaphor that he has of reorganizing his record collection autobiographically.
That is a psychopath move.
I love it though, because that's actually how I do my
I stand by my point.
My Blu-ray collection, which is that like I have to know that if I want to get to 3 Iron, the Kim Ki-duk film, I have to get to The Isle, which is a film that I reviewed in New Zealand, or you know, like
just use the alphabet. It's there.
No, but it means you know what I love about it is it's not algorithmic or based on a system of universality. It's based on my specific memory. And
so you're gatekeeping your own collection.
Who else is who else is going through his record collection?
Yeah, I know. Listen,
who else is going through my Blu-ray collection?
There's nothing wrong with it. Yeah. It's just crazy.
It is crazy, but that's what I love about it. It is not. It's it's the Shahir algorithm.
Fair.
Yeah, which is what I love about it.
Well, this has been the only podcast about the film High Fidelity. Shahir, when you are not making top 5 lists of your top 5 third spaces that have closed, where can folks find you?
You can find me sitting in a coffee shop, scrolling away on pencil like a madman at my website, suvanova.com. That's SUVANOVA.com. Matt, when you are putting together a mixtape of all the greatest mixtapes you've ever made, where can people find you?
You can find me actually probably at the coffee shop, because the coffee shop is the only third space that is truly really left, it seems like, where I'll be perusing my website, extra history and extra credits. I have no idea what's going to be out by the time this comes out. I could dig through our things, but why not just go over there and check it out? We got lots of fun surprises for you over there.
Before we go, I also want to shout out, there is a third space in Astoria, other than Make Believe Coffee Shop. That is Pancake Records, which is a vinyl record store just off Ditmars. I went in there and I had to film something on vinyl, and I was like,
you had to film something on vinyl?
Yeah, I had to like film a vinyl record.
Oh, you had to record. You had to actually film a record.
Yeah, I had to film a record. I didn't try to like.
I was like, film on vinyl. I was like, I know you can like speak into a megaphone and have a little thing etch a thing,
but I'm just like, how does this thing survive? And it's so cool, and it's cool. If you're into vinyl, Pancake Records is up on Ditmars. It's really, really cool. And it's like, it has the same vibe as this store, as High Fidelity.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we will talk at you next week, but probably not analogly.
Matt, congratulations on getting married.
Hey, thanks. I think by the time this podcast is over, it's happened.
Yeah.
Wow.
You're Mr. Walsh now.
I am Mr. Walsh now. Well, time to change the socials. Talk to everybody later. Bye.
Bye.